Now, global market players are saying that they are standing on the sidelines and not making any major bets on trading positions until the uncertainty of the U.S. polls fades. But for more on how the markets are reacting and been performing in early morning trade, at least on the Asian markets, we're joined now by SABC News Economics Editor Tshepo Mongoai. Tshepo, interesting one. Let's start with the Asian markets. Any major shifts given what is happening?
I think the picture, excuse me, it remains quite mixed. We have seen the mainland, which is Shanghai, which was slightly up, and that's quite unexpected. But what is really interesting is the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. If you look at that stock exchange, it has been quite down. I think earlier on it was down around 3%. You can see there that it really reacted to the news overnight falling. But you would have expected that the mainland would have also reacted, but it didn't. It was slightly up. But you do see that mainly the tech stocks in China, especially those that are listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, they've mainly been down. And of course, the main story here is the impact of the trade war and the fact that Trump, who seems to be likely to emerge as the winner, has indicated that he's definitely going to impose about 60% tariffs on Chinese products. Other analysts are saying perhaps it could be between 10 and 20%. He won't be that drastic, but the reality is that he wants to protect the American economy against imports from China. So it's quite interesting to see what is going to be the picture. I mean, overall in Europe, you look at Australia, it's up slightly. In India, you know, there's a bit of activity there, except the Hang Seng. So, and then the Rand dollar, Sakina, we've seen some strength yesterday when the JSE closed, but we seems to be gaining some grounds currently. We were at around 17 Rand 70 to the US dollar, but we have now seems to have strengthened a little bit with around 17 Rand 40 to the US dollar as we are busy digesting this. Whether this would be friendly to the emerging markets, I think that's quite interesting. Where does this put us as South Africa is quite interesting. But I think the sentiment is that things might not be that bad if you look at how the market are reacting. There is some kind of hope that it might not be as drastic as some people have made it to be if Trump take over. We've seen his presidency, and otherwise you would have seen some major decline in the financial markets, especially in Asia. But we are not definitely going to see that. The other picture, of course, is the gold price. A safe haven buying. There's been a lot of rallying in the gold price. People were saying we could see it touching $2,800 an ounce. It's currently at just below 2,700. It was around 2,750 earlier. But what you are seeing is some kind of softening. And if the gold price is softening, it means the risk aversion is also not a major driver at the moment. Because when gold price go up, you know there's a lot of fear. But if we're seeing the current trend that gold seems to be softening, that means the anxiety that investors have is also kind of slowing.
Indeed, not a major spike. But Tshepo, as South Africa, what would our preference be in this outcome? You look at something like AGOA, that particular agreement, and you look at the scoreboard at the moment. And if you look at the Senate, the Republicans are leading, and the Democrats have lost their majority in the Senate. You look at the House of Representatives, all indicators at the moment point to the Republicans in the lead. What would South Africa prefer?
I think, Sakina, given the kind of impetus that we've built during Joe Biden's presidency, there's been some lot of progress that has been made with South African delegation going to the US, doing some promotion. So the Harris would have been more of what we know in terms of the commitment made, in terms of the engagements that have already been made. I think that would have worked much, much better. But not just only for South Africa. I mean, if one looks at other markets, especially in Asia, Australia, they are mentioning that the Harris presidency would actually be favorable to the markets. But the reality might prove us otherwise. The markets can make up its mind and actually embrace, which I think is likely to happen.
Which is also interesting because we're not seeing anything crazy.
Absolutely.
You spoke about the gold price, you know, steady increases and nothing major to write home about. The currency exchange, you know, also nothing major to go on. So the markets, as you indicated earlier, had already factored in both eventualities. So nothing too much to write home about.
Yeah, and anyway, some have expressed that those tax cuts would actually come in handy for the US companies, and there are some of them are looking forward to that. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Wow. Tshepo Mongoai, and of course, taking us through some of the economic indicators, and that on the back of what has happened, the United States going to the polls yesterday, and what we're currently witnessing, which is, of course, the counting of the votes. And at the moment, Donald Trump in the lead, not unassailable just yet, but certainly in a strong position. So that's where we'll leave it for now.